my co-host Jason Sunkel tonight. One day, one night early, jumping on to talk some
Yeah.
NBA
I got
because we had to shift our normal podcast night.
I got to take the
What do you
sweatshirt off
got?
to wear this shirt, Mike. We almost win. We almost win. Right? I mean, that's perfect.
Brown Brownsy, man. Brownsy.
That's
Very
perfect. We
Brownsy.
very
Yeah.
Brownsy the Browns yesterday. Shador Sanders comes in the game. He comes in the game, looks terrible. His house gets broken into. It's all while the game's going on. You saw that, right, Mike?
I
Someone
didn't see
someone
that, but
someone broke into his house while the game was going on. This is Brown. We're Brownsing it up. Miles Garrett is
there you go.
on record on pace for set a record setting season as a defensive end with sacks. And our offense is like I could go out
And
there and play as well as some of the
and it's
players.
pretty good. And it's pretty good that Garrett can get that sack record only playing every other week too, man. It's amazing.
Well,
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. Takes a week off. It takes a week off. He only plays every other week, and he's still going to set the sack record. Imagine if he came to play every week. It'd be
I mean,
something.
it wouldn't matter. It's still offense is so
I
bad.
know. I know. I know.
All
All
right.
right.
Anyways,
That's enough
okay.
Browns
So
talk.
enough Browns talk. That was our Browns talk for the night. Getting closer to that stadium, Mike. All right. So the Brook Park Browns. All right. Here we go. So Mike and I are going to talk about I guess I'll start by talking about what we were at in the NBA totals, Mike, for our picks for the week. We stayed exactly the same, and as Mike alluded to, we are a day earlier. And if we're talking, this was going into tonight's game, so I don't know. I did not update it following the Cavs wins. The Cavs winning tonight helped Mike hurt me a little bit, but I would much rather the Cavs win than my little poo poo NBA totals draft get a victory. So I'm going to take the Cavs victory. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by talking about one team we're feeling great about and one team we're not feeling great about on our wins pool, Mike. So I don't know.
All right.
Do you want to start first, or do you want me to start first?
No, you go first. I want you to go
Okay. Well,
first.
here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. And I'm gonna say I feel great about two of my picks. Okay.
Okay.
Here's what I feel
All right.
great about. I feel great about
Okay.
the Wizards' losses because they are literally an abomination. They are literally they are terrible. And I'm feeling great about the Pelicans' losses because they are also terrible and they've literally fired their coach. Did you see, Mike? Did you see that the Pelicans weren't even announcing Willie Green as their head coach
Yeah, because they didn't
the
right
last
because they
few
didn't
games?
want to be booed. Yeah. Yeah. That was classic. Yeah.
Like,
That's
what is
bad.
what's this? And from all accounts, Willie Green's been a great guy. Like, I think he's a good coach. Like, I don't think he's a great coach, but like, why would you do that? Like, that is tacky. That is tacky in my opinion. Like, I don't care who it is and what the situation is. It's not his fault that Zion Williamson can't be healthy. It's not his fault that the GM traded away all their players. It's not his fault any of this. He's got the hand that he's dealt. He's got to put a system around those players. But how can you make a system if your theoretical best player is never playing? I mean, I don't know how you feel about. I mean, I don't want to be clear here. I don't have like a heavy leaning to thinking Willie Green is the greatest coach of all time, or his record indicates not so because of the fact that his team's been terrible. But I don't have a problem with Willie Green. I think that's so disrespectful. That's just my opinion. Maybe you got a different thought on that, but
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, if you're looking at the list of reasons why the New Orleans Pelicans are a terrible team or a horrible franchise, Willie Green is pretty far down that list. You got to go through a lot of names before you get to Willie Green's name in terms of people that I would blame for the current situation that the Pelicans are in. So yeah, to theoretically, I guess, save him from being booed by not announcing his name seems like that was
it,
even worse, even more
and
disrespectful
it
than
wasn't even like
I'd rather get booed.
based on what they said. It didn't even sound like he was consulted on this. They just made the decision to do that. Like
Probably. Well, that
like
tells you
because they
everything
asked
you
him
need to know about the Pelicans franchise.
they asked him in the post game. Did you notice that they're not announcing you? And he like gave us like a look, and he was like, "Yeah, I noticed," and like kind of like rolled his eyes or like kind of did like some weird like so that to me tells me that they didn't consult him at all on this, that they just made the decision. So listen, it just shows you the dysfunction. We talk about dysfunction with being the Browns fans, but like this is just this is just straight up dysfunction. Like, listen, I think it's time for the Pelicans. You know, we've been talking about it for what, 2 years. You just have to cut bait with the Zion situation at this point. Send him somewhere else. Be done with it and completely buy into a complete rebuild. Like if you're going to operate under the assumption that Zion Williamson is going to be fixed and that your franchise can still be saved as it's currently constructed, I think that would be an asinine take at this point. I think they just have to cut bait. Now, who's going to take Zion Williamson? I don't know. I think some team would take some sort of flyer. They're not going to give a lot up for him, and I don't know. I know you have to make contracts work, but I'm sure that you could figure this out. I'm sure that someone could do something to make it happen. And I think that the Pelicans, if they were smart, they would get rid of him. Like I just think they need to just completely blow it up. Just completely blow it up. Reset.
Be great if they blew it up and had their first round draft choice, but they traded it for Derek Queen, unfortunately. Who Derek Queen actually has looked pretty good over the last week or two. He's had some pretty solid games, but that Pelicans pick going to Atlanta is looking mighty
Pretty
good right
good.
now. Let's put it this way. Yeah, pretty good. I would say it's looking pretty good that that pick will be going to the Atlanta Hawks and be potentially very high in this upcoming draft for sure. So
Well, it's
remains to
that
be seen. But yeah,
the two teams, and I guess you'll talk about the other one, but the other pick is the Thunder getting the Clippers pick. Like those two picks are huge. Like
yeah,
just what the Thunder need. Like the Clippers to be terrible and abysmal, and the Thunder to back into like a top 5 pick or a top, because a top 3 pick even. I mean, geez Louise,
yeah.
like because the three guys are the three guys, and I'm not going to sit here and analyze the NCAA basketball landscape because I don't really know, but I know that there's 3 names, right?
Yeah, I
And
mean, you've
I
seen
just
that
think,
you've seen it. You've seen some highlights at this point of all three of those guys, right? I mean, all three of
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
guys look like they look like the real deal. And again, I'm not saying that I've watched full games of any of the three, but just the highlights, and obviously highlights tend to
Highlight,
emphasize a
not
player's yeah, they tend
highlight.
to
Yeah.
highlight the players. They tend to highlight the players' good sides, but man, just the array of different skills that those guys have certainly would lead you to believe that they are certainly franchise players. So man, I mean, for New Orleans to be sitting there as bad as they are and to then have given up that number one pick to move up in last year's draft to get Derek Queen, and then also, as you said, and we'll talk about the Clippers here, but for them to have their pick being potentially routed to Oklahoma City and have that pick go up. And if Oklahoma City were to get somehow whatever, I don't even know how much luck they need to jump up because the Clippers are, I mean, the Clippers are in a they're in a rough spot. Obviously, Kawhi's already injured. Harden continues to look. He's his efficiency compared to what he was like in Houston is way, 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 way down in terms of his ability to score. I don't know what he's shooting from the floor this year, but it is not pretty at this point. And I, I mean, in the West, I mean, you start out 4-10. It's hard to dig. That's a tough 14 game stretch to be
So,
able to dig
I
out of.
guess. Do you also want
It
to talk
just
about?
is.
Do you want to talk about the Clippers since this is probably your? Do you want to just do that now since we're here, Mike?
Sure, if you're done talking Pelicans.
Yeah, I'm done talking Pelicans. I feel great. They're dysfunction.
Okay. You're you're not confident that Zion comes back and turns things around, huh?
No, how many games is he going to get to this 250 this year, Mike?
He might not. He might not get there this year.
we
I
were
still
joking
feel confident
we were joking at the
he's gonna
beginning of
get
this
there,
year.
and
You were like,
he's
"This is
gonna
the
get there.
year," and we were going to punt it to next year. This is going to be great.
He's gonna
We'll just have a
he's gonna
whole
get
off
there.
season
He's
of
gonna get there.
whole off season
He's gonna get there in
discussing
his
about
career.
Zion Williams' health.
Yeah, I don't know. He's going to get there in his career. He may not get there this year. Who knows? He needs to he needs to import some like cadaver hamstrings or something to make it work. So or reinforce, give him double hamstrings. I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, the Clippers. Uh, I mean, I don't really know what to make of again, other than the fact that they are old and creaky and they play very slow and they just. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you do. James Harden is who he is, and look, the thing that's always been, I guess, the positive for James Harden has been that he in the regular season has been an offense unto himself, and he's still averaging 26 and 9, which considering the fact that he's, I believe, 36 or 37 years old. Let me see how old James Harden is now. James Harden is 36 years old. So the fact that you have 36-year-old James Harden, he's averaging 26 and 9. He's only shooting 45% from the floor. So he's not shooting very well from two. He's still shooting almost 40% from three on 9.5 attempts per game and 90% from the line. So I guess maybe my fear of his shooting this year has been colored by the last couple games where he hasn't played as well. But I just think that no Kawhi and some of the changes that they made in the offseason, obviously bringing in Bradley Beal, who is now lost for the season after playing in, what did he play? 6 games, 7 games, 6 games. It's just, that was a complete and utter waste of their time and money to have to pay Bradley Beal, not just this season, but I think he's signed for at least another year or two, if I'm not
I think it's
mistaken.
2 more. I think it's two
And
more.
yeah, that sounds right to me. And I just don't know. I don't know how this team gets materially better unless Kawhi gets healthy. And last year they were pretty good on the defensive end of the floor, and it felt like they had more depth. This year it feels like some of the depth that they had just isn't there and isn't producing in the same way. Zubats hasn't been quite as good as he was last year on both ends of the floor. And they're just creaky everywhere. You look at Brook Lopez, Nicholas Batum, Kawhi. I know Harden has been able to stay healthy, but Bogdanovich is always hurt and barely able to get out on the floor. He's only played in half their games. And man, in the West, like I said, a 4-10 stretch in the Western Conference probably precludes you from even having any chance at all of making it into the top six. And you're probably looking at a pretty dicey chance at making it into the play-in, coming back from a 4 of 10, a 4-10 start. So I don't know what the Clippers really do to turn this thing around, other than try to reestablish whatever defensive identity they had last year. And I know that since Beal's been out, they started Chris Dunn again, which makes sense, I think, to have him out there, especially next to Harden, whose defense has always been, especially on the perimeter, questionable. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you got to work John Collins in, and you got to develop the chemistry and get everything together and have this team play together in such a way that allows them to do enough on offense. And if they can improve their defense, that'll get them to where they want to go. But I don't feel too good about the Clippers wins. That was my sixth pick in the draft. I think I'll probably do better with some of my picks below it. So yeah, I'm out on my Clippers wins pick.
Okay. So now I've got to talk about what pick do I feel the least good about, Mike. And be honest with you, like I know, like I'm looking at my list here, and I know that I drafted it later in the draft, but man, the Pacers. We're talking a lot about bad teams tonight, Mike. Talking a lot about bad teams tonight. The Indiana Pacers are an abomination, as you said pre-recording. They're just bad. They lost Halliburton, obviously, for the season. Miles Turner out for the year, or gone, not out for the year, but gone to Milwaukee. Naismith is out now for
No,
4 weeks.
Miles Turner's out for the year because he plays for the Bucks.
Yeah. That's what I meant. It's just it's not looking good, Mike. It's not looking good for the Pacers. It's not looking good. I mean, what can Rick Carlisle do? I mean, the Eastern Conference is terrible, and they've got one win. They're in the competition with the Wizards and Brooklyn for the lottery balls in the Eastern Conference. That's basically where we're at, because they're not doing anything else. I mean, can this team win 20 games, Mike?
not as constituted right now, right? I'm just looking at their injury report. Halliburton out the whole season. Toppin will undergo surgery to place a screw in his right foot today. So he's, I'm assuming, done for the year. You already talked about Aaron Nesmith. He's expected to be out for 4 weeks. Johnny Furphy out. Quentin Jackson out. Cam Jones out. So if you just look at Nesmith, Toppin, and Halliburton, that's certainly three of their top 8 players from their rotation last year. And obviously the guy who drives the whole thing and Halliburton being out. But I'm guessing that this team is going to be very, very close to the all-time record if they don't set it. It's hard to imagine a team having been in the finals the year before that's going to have a worse season than the Indiana
Well, it's got
Pacers
to
are
be
going
the
to have this
Cavs in
year. I'm
2018.
certain that no finals team in NBA history has ever started 1-13 in their first 14 games of the next season. I feel pretty confident to say that that has never happened before, and it just speaks to one, just I guess how odd it was that the Pacers made their run to the finals anyway, and not that they didn't deserve it because they certainly did. If you look at beating the Cavs, right, then going ahead and beating the Knicks and getting all the way to game 7 with the Thunder, there's no way you could say that they didn't deserve it, but yet it was a very odd run that no one saw coming.
We'll be right back. All right, he's back.
Back.
Chapter 1.
Oops.
Major.
All right. So as you were saying, Mike.
Yeah. The Pacers, when you just look at what they did last year on their finals run, and not to say that their run wasn't one that was legitimate, because I think it was, but nobody saw it coming. And I know they beat the Cavs, who won 60 plus games. They beat the Knicks. Then they gave the Thunder everything they could handle, made it all the way to game 7, and then their best player goes down in the first quarter. So you can't knock the run that they made to the finals. Yet at the same time, prior to the playoffs, nobody saw that coming. There was not one person anywhere, unless you were a diehard Pacers fan, that potentially thought Indiana could get to the NBA finals, let alone win the whole thing. And so now you just look at their injury report, and like I said, you have 3 of their top 8 players from the championship run that are out. I mean, it's kind of understandable, just the way that the injury bug has hit this team. That, I mean, there's just not a whole lot that Rick Carlisle could do. If anybody as a coach could figure out how to make this thing work, it would be Carlisle, and he just hasn't been able to do that. Indiana has been horrendous. And as you said, when you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, you have Washington and Indiana with 1 win apiece and Brooklyn with 2. And I honestly don't know which of those 3 teams is worse. I actually think, to me, I think the Pacers probably are the best of those 3 teams, even without the guys that they have. But all 3 of those teams as constituted are absolutely horrendous. And I would be stunned if they're not the bottom 3 teams in the conference come, come the end of the season. And I don't think there's anybody worse in the West. I mean, you can say what you want about how bad the Pelicans are. I don't think the talent level on the Pelicans is nowhere near the talent level on Brooklyn, Washington, and Indiana. At least you look at New Orleans, and they got Trey Murphy, and you got Herb Jones, and you got Alvarado, and you've got guys coming off the bench that can play there. I think that the Pelicans roster is better now. They're playing in the Western Conference, so a little bit tougher schedule, but nonetheless, I still think those three teams at the bottom of the East are probably going to be the three worst teams in the league come the end of the season.
Yep. All right. So now it's your team that you're feeling great about, Mike.
Tough because I mean I got a ton of them that I feel pretty good about. I guess when I look at my list of, I guess I'm going to go with, because I go down my list and just I feel good. I'm just going to read my list in order of, because I feel good about all these. So I got Oklahoma City wins. I feel good about that. Cavs wins. I feel good about that. Knicks wins. I feel good about that. Nets losses. I feel good about that. Wolves wins looked a little dicey through the first 3-4 games, but they've started to come around. The Clippers wins is my first bad one, which I again probably should have gone with my own instincts and not picked with James Harden in any scenario, but I felt like regular season they'd be okay. Then I've got Suns losses, and Phoenix has been friskier than I thought, but I still think they're going to lose a lot of games in the West. They've had kind of an easy schedule. Lakers wins has been, I think, a bonus. Lakers are playing sort of above where people thought they were going to be. Then I get to my next one, which I think is probably my favorite, and that's Pistons wins. Pistons right now are at 12-2. They won again tonight. And I think what you can safely say about the Detroit Pistons is that you have two guys on that roster who have made a leap. And you have Cade Cunningham who was making a leap from being an all-star player to maybe being the type of player that everybody thought he was going to be when he was drafted number 1 in the Evan Mobley, Jalen Green draft. I think people thought that Cunningham was clear cut the number 1 pick and definitely a guy that you could build your entire team around and that he could be the best player on a championship team. And I think there was some questions about that through the first 2.5, 3 seasons. Last year, he started to get closer to that. This year, he's been tremendous. I mean, absolutely tremendous. He's averaging 27.5 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, and just under 10 assists. Now, he's shooting only 43% from the floor and 28% from three. So that's an area that he's going to have to improve, but shooting 80% from the line. And he just has been a guy who, like Luka, like LeBron, guys that are big, strong, physical wings or ball handlers that can get into the lane and create things for other people. He's shown that he's on that level. I don't think he's quite as good of a passer as LeBron or Luka, but he definitely is getting close to that level. And the problem in Detroit has always been that they really haven't had shooting around him. And now they have a little bit more shooting, but they also just have better players and guys are starting to develop. And the other guy that's taking a leap for the Pistons is Jalen Duren, who's currently averaging 19.5 points a game and 12 rebounds a game. And he's just so physical and big, and he's 22 years old, and he's become much more of a force on the defensive end of the floor than he was the last couple of years, where his athleticism kind of got him in trouble, where he'd go and try to block shots or have an impact and then leave his guy unguarded on the backside. He's become more disciplined, better guarding the pick and roll, better switching out onto smaller guys in the wing. And that's enabled the Pistons defense to step up even a notch from where it's been. I talked a little bit about Detroit last week in sort of looking ahead to the Eastern Conference playoffs and saying that when I look at the Detroit Pistons, I look at a team that is physical and plays with an edge. Duren certainly fits that category. Beef Stew fits that category. Ron Holland fits that category. I think Asar Thompson fits that category. And obviously Cade, I don't know if he's necessarily, I'd throw him into that mix, but he's certainly a physical player on both ends of the floor. So I just think what Detroit has going, I don't think they're going to finish at the top of the Eastern Conference, but I do think that what they have is real because Cade's proven himself. If he's not already there by the end of the season, he's going to be a consensus top 10 player in the league. And Duran as a 22-year-old center who's averaging 20 and 12, it's pretty good. So I think that Detroit, to me, it's legit. So I'm excited about that. Again, I picked them in the bottom, well, not quite the bottom third, but I picked them and then I think they were my ninth pick. So that's pretty good. I'll take a team at the top of the conference if I could get them at number 9. It's pretty good.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you. We haven't spent that much time talking about Detroit. Does JB Bickerstaff being the head coach concern you at all?
It does for the long term. I mean, I don't love the JB long term get this team to a title, but that's not really where this team is at. I mean, like I said, I don't think they're going to finish number 1 in the Eastern Conference. I don't think going into the playoffs this spring that anybody is going to pick the Pistons as the favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference. But we know that the one thing that JB Bickerstaff has proven, and he proved it in Cleveland again, was that he took a team that was bad and instilled a defensive mentality into them. And he raises the floor for your team. And I think eventually you bump into a ceiling with Bickerstaff, which was what we saw here. And so, again, am I concerned about JB Bickerstaff if I'm trying to win an NBA title? Is he an NBA championship coach? I'm not sure. But is he a guy for this stage of where the Pistons are that I feel confident that he can continue to instill a defensive mindset in his team and continue to keep this team moving in the direction that has been positive? I am right now. I feel good about where Detroit is, and I feel good about Bickerstaff, despite the fact that whenever I watch him coach, he still does the same thing that he did here in Cleveland, which is he spends an inordinate amount of time talking to officials and complaining. And as I've said many times on this podcast, that is my least favorite archetype of coaching, is someone who spends all their time on the sidelines just interacting with the officials and not focused on what they can control, which is coaching their team and trying to get the most out of their players. And so that's the concern I have, but I don't have that concern for this year because I do think that Bickerstaff has proven that he can raise a team's floor. And he's certainly done that in Detroit because we're 2 years removed from them losing like 27 games in a row. So it's been an amazing turnaround. So kudos to JB. And who knows? I think the thing too that we have to keep in mind is that everybody has an opportunity to learn and grow and improve. And although, like I said, when I'm watching Detroit, I still see him talking to the officials way too much. But who knows? There's always an opportunity. Just like players can get better, coaches can get better. So maybe when push comes to shove and Detroit's ready to contend for an Eastern Conference championship or an NBA championship, maybe JB is the guy. I would kind of lean no, but who knows? Maybe he grows and grows with his team, and maybe they get there sooner than anybody thinks. I still feel like either the Cavs or the Knicks are going to come out of the East, but right now, if you had to ask me to pick what team would I pick third, I'd be hard pressed not to pick Detroit.
No, not Milwaukee.
I mean, as good as Detroit's start has
I
been,
take Milwaukee over Detroit.
Yeah, I see watching Milwaukee tonight. I know Giannis got hurt in their game with the Cavs. The one thing I do like about Milwaukee is they do have shooting, and I do think that they have guys again who are feisty and tough, who aren't going to back down from other teams. And so going into the playoffs, if you have Giannis and you have shooting and you have some toughness amongst your other guys, I feel like that's a pretty good combination, even if maybe your talent level isn't as high as you'd like it to be. So, yeah, I guess if I was picking a finals team that's not the Knicks or the Cavs, I probably would still lean towards Milwaukee just if Giannis is healthy, just because of how good he is. But Detroit is making that much closer than I ever would have thought would have happened during the season. And I was high. I feel like Detroit, Cade's been coming, and I think we can safely say he's arrived now as a superstar player. I think most people would probably have him inside the top 10 of players in the league at this point.
Top 10? You're willing to say that?
Top 10, that Cade's a top 10 player? Yeah, I think he's a
Yeah.
top 10. I think he's a top 10. I think he's a top 10 player. I think he's a top
Okay.
10 player. I mean, let's go through the. You want to go through the list? Let's go through the list.
I mean,
quick.
let's go through the list. Okay. So Luka.
Yep.
Okay. Luka. I mean, let's just knock that.
Yep.
Luka, Giannis, Shea.
Yep.
Okay.
Jokic.
I mean, Wemby.
Wemby's.
I know Wemby's.
You got to put Wemby in there.
Wemby. Okay. You're telling me you'd rather have Cade than Donovan Mitchell?
You can put Mitchell in there at 6.
Okay.
Brunson. That's 7.
7.
Would you rather have
Okay.
Cade? Would you have Steph?
Steph is 8.
Okay.
Um.
All right. Now we're getting close here. Now we're getting close. So now you got Paolo. You got Jaylen Brown. You got Maxey. You got
Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown has to be a high hitter than him.
You'd rather have Jaylen Brown than Cade? There's no way. Cade is much more. Cade's a distributor.
Okay.
Cade's a guy.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you a question.
Jaylen Brown's a number 2.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a
Jaylen Brown's
question
number
about
2.
it. I'm not.
Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
Did we say Edwards?
So I'm gonna
Edwards
ask
has
this
to be in
question.
there.
No,
All
we
right.
didn't say Edwards. Edwards. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What about you? Would rather have Cade than Mobley?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure. Are you watching Mobley this year? Are you watching him?
Yeah. He doesn't look great.
He doesn't look great. What is he like offensively? What does he do? I mean, the only thing he does
I don't know.
is
I
kind
saw
of
some good moves
dribbles.
tonight.
He dribbles down, right? He kind of can back a guy in and then shoot that like fadeaway 12-footer. Other than that, like it was kind of stark watching the difference between, and it's not that I didn't know this was the case, but it's kind of stark watching Giannis catch the ball in the lane with 3 guys around him, and he just suddenly emerges from those 3 guys and is hammering home a dunk. And Mobley gets the ball with 2 guys around him, and he's always squatted down and making himself like a 5'11" guard. And then he just can't power the ball up, and he ends up having to kick it out or he gets it knocked away. And every player is different, right? And just the way that you do things, it seems like, well, why can't Mobley do the same thing Giannis does? They look very similar in terms of their body type. Obviously, Giannis is bigger and stronger at this point. But, and I've said it before, I think the archetype of what you would want Mobley to be is maybe get to 85% of what Giannis is on the interior, and then have the ability to shoot the ball from the outside that Giannis just doesn't have. And Mobley's just not strong enough right now. And he just doesn't have any there's no go-to moves. I mean, he just puts the ball on the floor and tries to get around somebody. And then if he gets cut off, he just turns and tries to back him down and then shoot the little fadeaway. And I don't know. I'd like to see him I want to see something that he does that he has a go-to. And so, if I'm starting a team, or if I have a team right now, I just think Cade is a guy you can put the ball in his hands and he can score for you and he can distribute the basketball. And right now, look, Mobley's great defensively. As you said earlier, reigning defensive player of the year and guards all the positions. And that makes him extremely valuable. But offensively, I still feel like he's a long way away from being the number 1 option on a championship team. We are not at the stage where you can give the ball to Evan Mobley and say, hey, go get us a bucket and everything's going to be fine. That is not the case right now. That doesn't mean he's not a great player, but it does mean that I think you can do that with Cade. I think you can give Cade the ball and say, "Hey, go make a play for us to win the game," and you could feel confident that you're going to get a good look either from Cade or for him getting the ball to the right person. So, look, he's right there on
Okay.
the he's right there on the verge of the top 10. He maybe he's number 10, maybe he's number 9, maybe he's number
What
11,
about
but he's right there on
what
the he's right there at the top 10.
would you take Cade over Durant right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He's not as good of a shooter, right? So if you look at I don't know, if you flip, let's just say you flip Durant and you flip him and Cade, right? You put Cade on Houston. Now suddenly Cade's the point guard in Houston, right? And Amen Thompson moves off the ball, which probably maybe is not as good for him in the long term, but for this year, probably you're better off. And Cade doesn't provide the same kind of shooting, but he does provide something again that Durant doesn't, was a little bit more playmaking, and that I think offsets the lack of shooting that you give up with Durant. And then obviously if you put Durant on the Pistons, I mean, who's running them? Who's running that team for Detroit? So I think both teams are happy with the guy that they have, but just in a vacuum, I think at this point in their careers, I think if you're just starting a team with one guy or the other, even if you're saying, "Hey, we're starting a team for this season," which guy would you rather have for this year only? I still think teams would rather have Cade. Just because he's more
Okay.
multidimensional, he can do more.
Okay. You're entitled to that opinion.
All right. That's fine. And I got two more I like. I have the Hawks wins and the Spurs wins. Hawks, I think, are 7-2 since Trey went down. The Trae Young max extension, probably, I'd say for Trey, isn't looking great at this point. Jalen Johnson's been awesome for the last week, especially, but since Trey's gone out, he's really putting up big numbers. And then I feel good about the Spurs wins, despite the fact that Wemby's hurt and going to be out. I hope this just doesn't become a case of Wemby's career that it's always going to be, that Wemby's just going to be in and out of the lineup and off and on the injury report throughout his career. Yeah, I just, you just would hate to see that because again, some of the things that the guy is doing, you saw his play with Draymond, right? And then the shot that Steph hit over him. You saw those two highlights, right? For them, their game
Yeah,
with
for
the
sure.
Warriors
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are both incredible highlights. Just Draymond pushing on him and how small he looked compared to Wemby. And then Wemby just kind of taking it, and then and then just getting the dunk on the out of bounds play without even barely jumping and dunking on Draymond's head. Always good to see. And then the Steph 3 over Wemby, just it highlights again how incredible Steph Curry is from just an athletic movement, balance, eye-hand coordination. There's just never been anybody like him that can do the things that he does from a movement standpoint and still shoot the ball the way that he does. It's just, I mean, it's unreal. Shooting over a 7'6" dude like that with the footwork and the step back coming off the screen and Wemby switches out on him. It's just the arc that he puts on the ball and the different releases that he has, depending on how quick he has to get it off, depending on who he has to get that shot off over. I mean, he's just an incredible, incredible shooter. But I feel good. I picked the Spurs wins at number, I think 11, and I feel pretty good that they're, even if Wemby is kind of in and out of the lineup, again, a good start goes a long way. And I think if they get above 500, that's a win for me. And so I think that they're clearly gonna do that unless Wemby goes out for the rest of the year. And even then, they may end up being better than people think. So I feel good about that one. And like I said, I feel good about the Hawks, and Jalen Johnson's been on a tear. I was just looking up his stats while I was talking, but he's averaging 22, 10, and 6, which is pretty good. Pretty good. And the Hawks have been, I think I saw or heard that they were number 3 in the league in defense in the stretch that Trae Young's been out. So without Trey, they're long and fast and athletic and definitely a team that can be menacing on defense. And when you take Trey out of that lineup, you no longer have to hide someone. And suddenly your defense can swarm a lot more and be a lot more physical and active because you're not having to make up for one guy who's among the worst perimeter defenders in the league. So I like those two picks for sure.
You're a lucky guy.
have
You're
anybody
leading
else
by
on-
11, Mike.
Yeah. You have anybody else on your list? Any other team on your list that you want to talk about that you're happy, sad with, or that is kind of an outlier?
I mean, Denver and Houston wins. I mean, I feel like I felt like those were pretty locked in.
Yep, those are solid.
The only team that I'm really worried about, Orlando hasn't been great. And I thought they were going to be better than they are. I mean, they have 7 wins and they're competing, but I just felt like, I felt like they were ready to take a leap. And obviously that was Detroit that was ready to take the leap and not them. So I think that's the team I'm most concerned with, not taking as big of a leap as I thought they were going to take, is Orlando. And maybe it's the, having to figure things out with Desmond Bane. And, although Bane's played, I mean, Bane hasn't been as good, but he had that one big game, obviously, where he got the big dub, hit the game winner.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
He hit the game. Yep. Yeah. He hasn't been as good as expected, but I think they're still trying to figure things out. And the problem is they still have the same problem. Bane hasn't shot the ball well, so it hasn't really made that big of a difference because he hasn't shot the ball well, but they still have the same problem even if he's shooting it well. And that's again that their two main guys, Franz and Paolo, aren't great 3-point shooters. And they're not guys that teams have to run at full speed 100% close closeouts. They're okay letting those guys shoot a little bit, and they both got to improve as shooters to be able to really get Orlando to where they want to go. And so they've played better recently, but still kind of middling at 7-7 at this point, sitting at number 9 in the terrible Eastern Conference. You actually have two teams at the bottom of your draft list that have surprised in a positive way, not positive for you, but positive for them. And the Raptors, who have beaten the Cavs
Sixers.
twice. Sixers, yeah, I guess the
And the
Sixers
Raptors.
too. And Miami. And Miami's been better than Miami's 8-6, and you got their losses again. I don't know how sustainable what Miami's doing. I feel like we talked about a little bit last week that Eric Spoelstra just was willing to kind of scrap everything that he's done and install this new pass and cut and read and react offense and not have many ball screens. And he's getting good performances, although they beat the Knicks tonight. Wiggins wasn't very good tonight, but over the season, Angel Wiggins has been having, for him, a very good and consistent year. And then it looks like Davion Mitchell has kind of found a home after getting out of Sacramento. He seems to have established himself as the point guard of the present, at least in Miami. So I think that those two teams, I don't know how real or sustainable either one of those are. Like Toronto, everybody felt like during the preseason coming into it that Toronto had talent, like individually, that they had some guys that were talented, but not necessarily a good fit together. And so it's hard to know how real this start is, but I watched them twice play the Cavs. I feel like if the Raptors played the Cavs, it's almost the opposite of LeBronto. I feel like Toronto currently has this current Cavs team. I feel like we always struggle against Toronto and either lose or have to pull out a game late that's just a slog for whatever reason. So I feel like maybe my opinion of the Raptors is maybe higher.
I went to the game on Thursday and went with my dad, and we went to dinner with my dad, and he's like, and listen, once again, my dad is a guy who pretends to know more about basketball than he actually knows. And he kind of sends me almost the Magic Johnson tweets. He's almost the Magic Johnson tweet guy, not quite there. But he told, we're sitting at dinner, and he's like, "Oh, the Cavs are going to whoop up on the bums." And I'm like, "You realize that we lost to them 2 weeks ago, Dad?" And he goes, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, we lost to them in the NBA Cup games." And he's like, "Oh." And I was like, well, I mean, and once again, like there's no excuse for them to lose that game, okay? Because there's no reason for them to win that game or lose that game, but they did, right? So I think what's important to note is like the Cavs are beatable right now. I don't think they're listen. When Garland played in the 2 games that he played before he got re-injured, those are the best 2 games the Cavs have looked. True or false?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. You still got Strus coming back, which he's supposedly coming back tonight. There was a funny interaction on the NBC post game show. Did you see that Donovan Mitchell being interviewed?
No,
Or no? Did you see that?
no.
So Strus was
I
in
did
the
not see
background
it.
saying, "Good game, Don. Good game, Don. Way to carry the team." And he said, "Thanks, Max." And Carmelo said, "Tell Max I said to hurry up and get back to work." So Donovan Mitchell, while having the headset on, yells, says, "Hey, Max." Melo says, "Hurry up and get back to work." And Max says, "Oh, all right, Melo," or something like that in the background. So listen,
That's funny.
Strus is getting closer. I don't know when Strus is coming back. I think the Cavs are going to be okay. But yeah, Toronto has definitely been a surprise. I think the other team to talk about is the Chicago. Chicago's obviously been better than expected too. So like all three teams that I did not think were going to win a lot of games have decided that they're going to win some games in the Eastern Conference, which I guess I should have known that the Eastern Conference was going to be a disaster and that there's teams are going to overperform because they're playing against really terrible teams and the Wizards, the Nets, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think
so that's where
I
we're
think
at,
your
Mike.
Bulls I think your Bulls pick is okay. I think you're going to be safe on that Bulls pick because they're coming back to reality. They're 6-6, and I think they're 1-5 on the road, which is usually a sign of a bad team if you can't win on the road. They're battling it out with the Nuggets right now. I think there's like
I
40
was going to say
seconds left,
they're
and
battling with the Nuggets right now.
yeah, Chicago's up by 1 with 37 and a half seconds to go. So we'll probably have that be that'll probably be a final by the time we're done. But anyway, I guess I don't know. Did you have some Cavs takes you wanted to talk about, or did you already kind of get all those off your chest?
I will say the offense looks terrible, but once again, I think it's a product of the lack of continuity and people being, healthy. And then when they think they're getting stuff healthy, they then fall apart. So I don't know. I think I'm if I was to say what level of concern am I, I'm mildly concerned. I'm not overly concerned. I'm mildly concerned, but I'm not going to jump to conclusions yet, and I'm not going to overreact. You know, they don't look great, but they don't look great, and they're 10-5,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
like what are like how much am I going to get into this and analyze and be like right now? Do I think the way that they're playing they can win the NBA championship? The answer is no. Do I think there is time for me to change my opinion on that? Possibly. Yes, I think there is. I mean, they got to get everyone healthy. They got to continue. Listen, Lonzo Ball has been everything we could ask for. He hasn't shot the ball well, but his hustle plays and his defense and his like the I did not realize I was not familiar with his game in the sense that I was not familiar with how he passes the ball. He is
Oh, he's
probably
fantastic.
like he's one of the best distributor of the basketball I've ever seen. Honestly, like the passes that he threw 2 passes tonight that I was like the turnover that he caused at the end of the third quarter, like
Yeah.
that was amazing. And then getting Craig Porter Jr. the ball, he does take some gambles. There was one play where he drove the lane, drew out 2 defenders, tried to kick the ball to Allen, and didn't quite thread the needle. But I'm okay with him like being aggressive because he just has shown how good of a passer he is. So I think my big thing is I just want to see the team continue to, do well and play well. And listen, if Lonzo keeps meshing in nicely, stays healthy, I love the plan with him not playing on back-to-backs. They're doing a good job. on managing his minutes. And the big question mark to me is like, what's Jared Allen has kind of been like, he had a great game. Was that the game before the one I went to against? I don't remember. And then like he was great in the first half, and then he basically got benched in the second half. So I don't know, like, I don't know if there's just what's going on there. Like, I felt like he played really well in the first half tonight, and then he kind of disappeared, and then they didn't even play him in the fourth quarter at all. I like. I know you joked last week about not knowing what's his name, Naquan, but he's been playing really, really well. He's played really well. He's a nice. He kind of reminds me of a Varejao spark plug. Like he's not gonna wow you with his offensive capabilities, but he's just all over the floor. And like in like 11 minutes on Thursday night, he had 5 fouls. he was all over the place, like trying to make things happen. So like, that's something that they can definitely use. I'm not, like I said, I'm not overly concerned. I think there's some time, but I definitely think they need to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. The Lonzo pickup is and will continue to be huge as long as he can stay healthy. He's one of my favorite types of players in that he's a guy who just makes the next easy pass. Like the ball moves from him to the next guy who's supposed to get it. So if Lonzo has it in the backcourt and there's a guy ahead of him, he doesn't feel the need to dribble 14 more times and then pass to him. He just passes the ball. And it's the same way in the half court. And that's not to say that he can't make the amazing, spectacular passes and reads because he does that too. But he's just so good at getting the ball wherever, in the backcourt, in the front court, and just moving it to the next guy. And I think the average person doesn't understand how valuable that is on a basketball team because so many people, A, either want to hold the ball every time they catch it, or B, have to hold it because they have to then survey the floor and figure out where the ball needs to go. Lonzo already knows where the ball is supposed to go before it even gets to him. And that is a rare quality, plus being a guy who's willing to give up the ball. And then you look at it and you think about he hasn't shot the ball very well, as you said, to this point. He's shooting, let's see, right now, Lonzo's shooting, he's up to 34%. So it was much lower than that a week or two ago. But he's clearly a better shooter than Isaac Okoro. And defensively, his size just gives you something that Okoro couldn't give you because Okoro didn't have the ability to handle the ball and be the playmaker that Lonzo did and still give you size and defense. And so now when you look at, hey, you could have minutes where Lonzo's out there with Donovan or Lonzo's out there with Garland, and now you have at least one guy with size in the background or in the backcourt. I think getting Lonzo to the playoffs healthy is going to be a huge, huge part of this regular season for the Cavs team. It's going to be huge if they can get him to the playoffs and have him be healthy at that point in the season, because I just think he's going to be so valuable in what they want to do. And then the Jared Allen thing, I think what you're going to see as the season goes along, and you're already starting to see it a little bit, is that I'm not sure Jared Allen is in their 5-man closing lineup very often. I think when push comes to shove in the last 5 minutes of the game, you're going to see more and more of Evan Mobley at center and him being surrounded by the 2 guards, and then figure out who the other 2 guys are that are going to be on the floor, whether that's Jalen Tyson, whether that's DeAndre Hunter, whether that's Merrill, whether that's Lonzo, whether it's whoever. DeAndre Hunter, they got a bunch of choices there, but I think Jared Allen's going to become a first 44 minutes guy, and I think in the last 4 minutes you're going to start to see a lot less of Jared Allen in big spots. That would be my guess as to what's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I feel like in crunch time they're going to shift Mobley to center and try to get more shooting on the floor instead of going with a 2 big lineup, which is kind of the way that they've always gone since they paired those 2 together. It felt like that, at the end of games or in big spots, that most of the time those 2 guys were on the floor. I feel like this Cavs team is evolving to the point where Jared Allen's going to be the guy that gets bumped out of the whatever, the key 5 or the last 5 or the finishing 5. And I don't know who all for sure is gonna be on it, but I think you're gonna have Mitchell, Mobley, and Garland, and then maybe it's game to game. Maybe you start to feel confident Kenny Atkinson picks out a guy or 2 that is always a part of that, and maybe one spot rotates. I don't know, but the Cavs have some good options for those last 2 spots in crunch time to be able to kind of mix and match. And what I like is they can put out guys who can play offense and can play defense. So if you're going to put Hunter or you're going to put Lonzo or you're going to put Tyson, I think all those guys are adequate defenders and adequate on offense. And one of the things that's really hurt the Cavs in the playoffs the last couple of years is the guys that they're playing have been one-dimensional, right? You're either putting a defensive player in there like a Curro, or you're putting in a guy who is primarily an offensive player like Ty Jerome or Merrill. And you need two-way players in the playoffs because if you have a weak defender, the opponent's going to hunt them. And if you have a weak offensive player, the defenses are going to sag off them and make it hard for your other guys to score. So you got to have guys who can do it on both ends. And I feel like the Cavs are well positioned for that. My biggest concern continues to be I just would like to see this team be tougher. I'd like to see them be tougher physically. I'd like to see them be tougher mentally. I'd like to see them be tougher externally. That's why I'm liking what I'm seeing from Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant's been throwing people around and talking to people and
You
just
said he was a
he's
clown
been
last week. You called him a
he
clown.
has been
You called him a
he has
clown
been a
last week, Mike.
he has been a clown, but I kind of feel like this team I kind of feel like he might be what they need in terms of just a guy to come in and do stupid things like whatever, getting involved with Gary Trent tonight, or when he pushed the head, the ball goes off of Giannis and he's basically leaning over the bench, telling all the assistants to get the. We need somebody to stir it up. I feel like our team's kind of just. I don't know what the right word is. I still say soft. I still think the Cavs right now they got to get tougher in one way or the other because I think the opponents that they're going to have to go through are going to try to beat them up, and you got to be able to beat down the bully. And I think the Cavs are going to face some teams that are going to try to bully them, and we'll see if they can. We'll see if we can get there. See if they can get there in the playoffs.
Yep. All right, Mike. We're nearing an hour. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
The only thing I want to do, and I don't really want to get into a big discussion about this, but I just want to read the statistics of the big four right now in the NBA in terms of the MVP and just guys who are the best players in the world. I just think the statistics that these guys are throwing up there are completely and utterly off the charts. I mean, it's unreal when you look at what these guys have been able to do. And I just think it's worth recognizing that if this continues and none of these guys get hurt, we are en route to a historic MVP race where the arguments back and forth of who's the MVP, especially because everybody's team right now is playing well or are going to be at the top of the conference or at least probably performing better than maybe people thought in the case of the Lakers and even the Bucks. So here, let's start with Jokic. Jokic is averaging right now 29 points a game, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. He's currently shooting 67% from the floor, including 42% from three on 4.5 attempts per game and 87% from the line. I mean, he just like his stat lines are ridiculous. He's shooting 67% from the floor, taking 16 shots a game and averaging 29 points a game. I mean, he's just ridiculous. And the statistical line for him is insane. So that's Giannis. Then let's go to Shea, who is the reigning MVP and has his team with only one loss at this point in the season. And he's continued to just be unbelievable in terms of his consistency. That's the one thing with Shea. Like when I look at a box score after a Thunder game, like I know he's going to be somewhere between 29 and 37. He's just continues to just crank up over and over again in these games that every time it looks exactly the same. So Shea's averaging 32.5 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists. He's shooting 53% from the floor, again, as a guard, and 37% from three on almost 6 attempts. So his three-point attempts are up. His three-point percentage is up. He's shooting 90% from the line, getting to the line 9 times a game, which we know is one of his best skills. Probably having a better statistical season than he did even last year. And his team sits at the top of the Western Conference and top of the entire NBA at 14-1. I mean, again, just a ridiculous, ridiculous stat line. Let's look at the guy we saw tonight in Cleveland, although he went out with the groin injury, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Here's what Giannis is currently doing for the Milwaukee Bucks. So this is prior to tonight's game, but Giannis came into tonight and he was averaging 32.5 points a game, 11.5 rebounds, 7 assists for Giannis, which I believe is a career high. I don't think he's ever gotten to 7 assists. He's shooting a paltry compared to Jokic. He's only shooting 63% from the floor. He is shooting 50% on threes, but he's almost eliminated those from his shot diet because he's only taken 1.5 threes per game. He's getting to the free throw line 11 times a game. Unfortunately, he's only making 64% of his free throws right now. But again, just a ridiculous, insane stat line from Giannis. And that stat line probably wins the MVP in 85% of the NBA seasons in history. And Giannis might not even be able to sniff the award with that stat line this year with what Shea and Jokic are doing at the top of the Western Conference. And then the last guy, obviously, is Luka. And he's been out with a couple injuries, but he has the Lakers right now currently at 10-4. And Luka is averaging 34.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Luka is shooting not quite as well as these other guys, only shooting 46% from the floor, 32% from three. He's getting to the line 12.2 times per game, shooting 78% on free throws. So, I mean, I just think that those 4 guys are just having unbelievable statistical seasons, both in the moment,
How do you even
but
pick an
also
MVP from that, Mike? How do you
no,
how do you even pick
I
an
don't
MVP with?
I don't think you do. Well, obviously you have to. And I think it comes down to which of those player types do you like the most? What do you appreciate the most about each of those guys, right? So if you like Jokic, what you like is a guy who orchestrates everything, prefers to be a passer, and yet probably has the best hands, touch, finishing ability around the basket of anybody maybe in the history of the game, but just a guy who facilitates everything and makes everyone on his team better and wants to score second. And yet he's still averaging 29 points a game. So that's the Jokic vote, is people who want that type of player. If you want a guy who is a crafty scorer and that's his main thing, and basically he can get you a bucket whenever you want a bucket, then you want Shea. Like when you watch Shea play, one of the things that strikes you about him is that he just is able to get to his spot and create space to take that mid-range jumper that nobody at any level of basketball is really supposed to be taking because it's such a low percentage shot. And yet for him, that's the shot that he's looking for almost every time down. He just gets in, he slithers away, he bumps, he jukes, he fakes. He either gets you off your feet and gets to the line, or he fades away and he makes those shots all the time. He's the scorer. So if you just want a guy who's going to score and score and score and is going to get you a big bucket and do it in creative ways, then Shea's your guy. If you like power on the interior, you like lots of dunks, you like the ability to get to the rim on the fast break, then Giannis is your guy, right? And Giannis is adding some of these other things to his toolbox. I mean, he's become a much better passer. He had 2 passes tonight in the first half where he drove in and he just threaded the needle to guys in the corner. And watching that, I'm like, man, he never would have been able to do that a year or two ago. And he just continues to add to his game. But I mean, his big thing again is power around the rim and just his ability to attack in transition. And then you look at Luka and you're kind of getting the all around play, right? You're getting the scoring, you're getting the ball handling, you're getting the unbelievable passing. And so Luka's kind of a combination of all those guys. Maybe he's the best scorer. I still think I'd probably, if I needed a basket, I'd still probably give the ball to Shea. But Luka can score. Luka in the same way that Jokic loves to pass. Luka's passing skills are unbelievable. Top 5, top 10 all time as a passer, vision with the size. He can rebound. Defensively this year, he's been a little bit more engaged, maybe because he's in better condition. I don't know. But he's kind of a combination of all those other 4 guys. So I think when you ask the question of how do you pick amongst them, I don't think there's a bad, like right now, you could make a case for any one of them. I think you just look at them and you just say, aesthetically, which one of those guys do I like to watch the most? Which guy would I like to watch play the most? And that's who you vote for. And I don't think there's no wrong vote amongst those 4 guys. You could tell me you voted for any of the 4 of them, and I think you can make a clear case that that's the right vote. It's not a vote against the other 3. It's just a vote for whoever it is that you pick.
I'm picking Jokic, just because I like Jokic. I'm taking.
That's what
Jokic.
I would do too. I just think watching what he does, and I think that his overall impact on his teammates and therefore on winning, I think is the biggest influence, especially on the offensive end of the floor. But again, I could say the same thing with any one of those 4 guys clearly have a positive impact on their teammates and make their teams better and are just unworldly basketball talents who continue to get better and better and better every year. And I think it's a testament to, I know we don't normally talk as much coaching stuff on our NBA pods, but I think when you talk about one of the themes of our conversations with coaches on here is just about, right, the growth mindset and continuing to learn and improve and get better over time. And most of the time we're talking about that from the standpoint of how do coaches get better. But in this case, I mean, these guys just what they've done, and you look at the improvement that they've each made over the course of their career. The only guy who came into the league a star was Luka, right? All the other 3 guys were.
Yeah.
Jokic is a 2nd round pick. Giannis was picked in the middle of the 1st round. Shea was, I think he was in the top. I think he was number 11 maybe or 12, and nobody expected those guys to be stars. And what they do, they just put their head down and went to work. And every year they added something to their game and they just got better and better at their strengths. And they made their weaknesses into average. And then they made their weaknesses into strength. And like I said, the Giannis tonight, the 2 passes that he threw in that game against the Cavs, they're things he never would have been able to do even 2 years ago. And now he made them look routine and was putting the ball right in a guy's shooting pocket, right at the right time, right when he needed to be able to shoot it. And that only happens with work, man. And that's again, that's what you want from the best players in your league, right? Is guys who care and want to get better and improve. And look, you can look at Luka this year, right? I mean, we've been saying for years, what happens if this guy gets in shape? What could he possibly be? And we're starting to see what he can possibly be. I mean, he's putting up again a 35, 9 and 9. pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. That's all I got, man.
I agree. I'm good. We won't make everyone listen to 2 hours of us analyzing jerseys tonight. So I think it's time to call it a night, Mike.
Sounds good. Well, we can report that since we last spoke a minute or 2 ago about the game, the Chicago Bulls were able to finish off the Denver Nuggets in Denver, by the way, in Denver. So 130 to 127.
That's a double whammy bad news
Jokic
for me,
shot.
Mike. That's a double whammy bad news. It's a double whammy
is,
bad
yeah.
news for me because I have Denver wins and Chicago losses. And not
Yeah,
good.
it's not good.
Not good. Not
Yeah,
good.
so now I guess I'm up 13, or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, that was despite Jokic. Jokic shot below 50% from the floor today, so I guess that was a win for the Bulls. He was only 1 of 7 from 3, but he did put up a 39, 18, and 13. mean, it's just like the statistics are just it's just those are just unreal. 39, 18, and 13. It's crazy. So
Yeah.
no, sorry, 36.
Alrighty.
Sorry, 36, 36, 18, and 13. All right, let's leave it there. Anyway, thanks to everyone for checking out tonight's NBA episode. Really appreciate it. And we will catch you on the next one. Thanks.